Welcome back to the Utah International Film Festival podcast. We are here with Brandon Young, the multi-talented, involved in 7, 12. How many did I count that you're involved in? Three. I knew it was an odd number. Have you been involved in this particular film festival before in any way?
Yeah. Last year, I did a short film called Haunted, and we ended up winning Best Sound and Best Actor for Dennis Record. So
very nice.
Yeah.
And that was your first time with this film festival?
With the film, the very first year that this started, I did have a film, but I don't even remember how long ago that was. 2012.
I want to say 13, 14 years ago. Is that right? Isn't this year 14? This is your 14th?
So 14 years.
So you're an OG and you're coming back, making the rounds.
It's a way to do it.
What sets this film festival apart from others that you've been involved with?
That's a good question, because a lot of the film festivals in Utah have been very, very good. Like, I haven't noticed one that's been bad. What I do like about the Utah Film Festival itself is its longevity. I think it's got a great support system, and it thrives in helping the community, and then I think that's paid back as well. The community is, like myself, putting films into it and trying to support it, and I've just seen growth, and that's exciting, and I'm happy for everyone involved, and it's been a good thing over the years.
You mentioned growth.
Yep.
Is there anything you can attribute that growth to? From your standpoint, as you're an outsider looking in and you say, you know what, I see growth, I see progress. Is there anything that you can attribute that to?
The organizers.
The organizers?
And that's not, I say that with a smile, but that's also true, because, I've gone to a lot of film festivals, outside of the state, and you never know what you're going to walk into. You do the submission fee, you get accepted, and you walk in, and it's like, was I just scammed? Because it's not organized. Everything just seems to be falling apart. But then you come here and just see that everything is polished, everything's put together, there's no confusion, and you just feel taken care of, and that speaks a lot. And I attribute that very much so to Warren and everyone else who's involved. They just make sure that they put on a good show. It's polished, it's organized, and that speaks a lot.
Very well put. So it's very professional, and it obviously has brought you back more than once.
Oh, for sure.
This year, what are you most proud of your 3 things that you have going on? What are you most proud of that you have in this time? They can be all 3 if you'd like.
To a certain extent, it is all 3.
Good.
So I'm doing 3, like you said, A2578 short film. I'm proud of that. Just it's been completed. That's
done,
which is good. Documented, which is a screenplay, and in the screenplay competition aspects, that is the script based on the short film, which we are moving forward into production this year. So while I'm proud of the script and the story, it's still a daunting thing to look forward to, because it's going to be a massive production. So I'll say something completely different once we're finished with it.
Right.
That sigh of relief. And then the third one, I just did sound for a buddy. The film's called The Industry, directed by Matt O'Connor. I'm proud of that in the sense that I started doing sound just a couple of years ago. So, and then I just came in and kind of helped him finish the movie, because it was shot in 2012, I think, and had bad sound.
So a lot of sweetening, a lot of just playing with old tracks.
There was a lot to do, and so we just decided to finish it and get it out. So I'm proud of that for him, that it got finished. So
team player.
Yeah. But A25, I think, is probably my baby right now, just because it's a done deal.
Why did you do it? Okay, I would imagine, punch me in the face if I'm wrong, that you have files and files of screenplays that you're playing with, you're tweaking, you're doing. So why did you pick this one to make actually into a film?
You talking the short
The
specifically?
short specific.
There's a couple of things that went into the genesis of it. The movie was actually made a few years ago, but at the time, camera broke, and I'd gone to like 48-hour film festivals and whatnot. And the one question in a panel that always drives me crazy is when people say, "What did you film on? What did you shoot on?" I think that is an irrelevant, stupid question. As long as it shoots and you can operate it, you get, that's what's important.
Quick time out on that.
Okay,
Who's asking that question?
that is, it's
You
anyone.
can't dial it down to it's that kid right out of film school, or it's
No,
that one kid that just bought the brand new Dragon, or
Every single year at the
You get that
48-hour film festival, back in the day, that was the question.
but you haven't dialed into what personality type is asking that?
No, and if I did, it might be a rude comment.
Understand? Okay, we'll move on.
Okay. So again, my camera broke, and everyone's asking that.
What camera was it that broke?
At the time, it was a Sony HV1U. So this was a while ago. And it's like I didn't have the money at the time to really either. Like, the repair on it would cost or as much as a brand new camera. So I was like, I'll just save up. And I was mad because I wanted to participate in the Demon Chaser Film Festival, which is local here, done by Brian Higgins. And so I was like, I want to do a film festival and create something again, but I don't have a camera. And I'm like, we all have cameras now. We have cell phones in our pockets. So I ended up shooting that on an iPhone. And so
All of it, or did
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
You started over.
yeah, well, the whole film was on an iPhone.
The whole thing.
Yeah. And part of that was because I wanted, if I got that question again in the panel, I can say I shot on an iPhone. At the time, it was kind of uncommon. But the genesis really with that is if I'm going to shoot on an iPhone, you need to make sure that your story works well with that medium. I'm not going to go and shoot a Braveheart or a Gladiator or a Lord of the Rings on an iPhone. But I can shoot something. And so I just kind of worked out a story that would work well with that medium. So we kind of did like a found footage thing. Part of it was inspired by the Scream films. It is a horror movie. But I loved Scream when that came out, I was a teenager. And it's like, if I'm ever going to do a fan film, it would be Scream, and it would be from the perspective of the killers. And so I kind of dusted off that idea and was like, I could not do a fan film. I can create something original and then use the iPhone to kind of tell this story and shoot it like it's an 8mm, and had to mess around with frame rates and stuff like that. But
Is there anything, now that it's done and you've been able to watch it back a few times, is there anything that you would have done different had you shot on something else?
no.
Good.
I don't think so, but that's something that I've toyed around with. So like Documented being the feature version of that, I have kind of gone back and forth of, do I keep that same first person perspective the entire way through? And that story, again, the short 8/25/78, that's the year 78, and it goes to 88. So I'm using 8mm, I'm using VHS camcorders and stuff. So we're playing with that visual distortion aspects. And my question to myself is, do I maintain that and still do it all first person throughout the entire thing? Or do I go back and forth with first person and then actual cinema quality, lighting and stuff? And I still kind of going back and forth on that, but I'm deciding to go all in on first person. But
And I'm going to be that guy in the back of the room.
getting
I can't imagine that you would shoot the entire feature on a phone.
that's the plan.
Really?
Yeah. So, and that's creating a whole sorts of different problems in trying to figure out lighting. It's not only, the phone is great, but it's being first person. It's full, like we're going to be 360 in that set. So we can't have light stands and reflectors and stuff. So we're trying to figure out how to properly balance or bounce light, and use natural as much as we possibly can. But so stuff like that becomes the problem. It's not so much the phone; it's more of the first person aspects.
Right.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to shooting on a phone. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool. That's inspirational. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, young people, that would go, I got this phone, I got this idea, but I need X camera to execute this.
Yeah.
This is proof that you don't.
Yeah. I think Danny Boyle is doing 28 years later right now, and that's all on an iPhone as well. But I'm looking at behind the scenes photos of it. You know, he's got like massive lenses and rigs hooked
He's
up
cheating
to it.
a little bit.
And so I'm like, okay, do I go that route or what? But I don't know. I don't know what
Don't know yet.
We're plan is to film sometime this summer. So
This coming summer.
Yep.
With the iPhone 16.
yeah, we got to raise money for
Right. That seems to be the universal problem.
Yeah.
You mentioned that one came before the other. Was it chicken and the egg? The short before the full length, the screenplay, et cetera. How did that timeline play out?
It was always just the short. That was, once we finished that, it kind of was like a one and done. We moved on to other things. And then, so my son is actually in it, and he's, at the time was, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something like that. And he has, just a small role. But I was watching him years later, and it's like, maybe I do a sequel to it. And
Now that he's older.
and show real-time progression, do a different date, a different event. It didn't happen at that time. And then, so it was just going to be a short sequel. And I was like, well, I'll do a feature. Let's see what this can do. And that posed a whole bunch of other problems too, because he's not an actor. I just forced him into it, like most filmmakers do with their kids. So I had to we're casting now, or we just finished casting, but, I had to cast someone who looked that part, who could portray that. He really would like to have been in it, but he's a musclehead now, and that
Doesn't fit this
complete
being a little serial killer guy.
yeah.
I get
So, yeah.
So yeah, so it's probably bittersweet that he didn't get cast for it.
I think there's a sense of jealousy, but I think he's also relieved.
Was there now this might be personal, was there a demand for the full feature? Or is this something that you're wanting to do as a pet project?
No, there was. When we finished the movie, it got spread out on YouTube, got picked up by FearNet. That was their last short that they did before they sold to Shudder or whoever they did. So it got picked up. It had a lot of interest. Fox Digital Studios was interested, and I was having conversations with a feature with them before they folded. So maybe that's an omen of
No.
all these things that are interested. Just
He'll bring Coleman's into horror films. That
so yes, yeah. It was just. It seemed like there was an audience for it, and there was a lot of interest. So that's why I pursued it.
very nice. If someone is not familiar with your work in general, what do they see in what you do? What makes your work yours? How are you set apart in a film festival with 250 entries? How is someone going to be able to watch that and go, hey, that's his?
I like to think that most of my stuff is diverse enough that you can't pick out certain, with the sole exception.
You dodge the bullet.
My stuff is generally 9 out of 10 times is generally really dark material. So that's something when people say Brandon's doing a movie, they automatically assume that it's a horror movie.
Do you need to lay down on this couch and we need to talk about some childhood things, or where does that come from?
I don't know specifically where it comes from. However, I do find it to be very therapeutic to write this stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it's helpful. Maybe it's not. I don't know. For who?
Maybe that's why your kid doesn't want to be in there anymore. Dark. So there's a dark feeling that surrounds the things that you do.
Psychology is a huge motivational factor for me in the projects that I do.
How does that play a part in your casting? Are you looking for someone that, I mean, it's just not all there, or someone who...
I want them there.
Yeah.
It can be tough, like Documented. Like I said, we have been casting that, and the lead who's playing my son, his name's Ryan Hoskins. he is such a nice, warm-hearted guy, and meeting him and trying to convince him to do the movie was actually quite challenging. Because like it can be off-putting, especially with how dark you go. And he had some concerns, like, I actually have to do this. I mean, not really, but yeah. I mean, there's some stuff there, so it becomes difficult in just trying to get people who are willing to do the stuff that's being conveyed.
Got it. I think. So let's take Ryan as an example. Does that happen often in your film, that you're bending or pushing an actor to a point where they're like, oh man, I'm in a spot or a personal space that is challenging?
Not really. Like Antonio's in the film, like he bought into it hook, line, and sinker and just went for it. I've worked with a lot of recurring or repeat actors and talent a lot, so I think they kind of get used to it. This is by far, Document is by far the most dark piece that I've done, and I've been expanding that with the acting pool a little bit. So meeting new people who are not familiar with me, maybe that's the issue. It's just trying to convince them of, trust me and do this.
Does New Blood play to your New Blood meeting new actors? Does that benefit you, that you're getting more of just that sincere reaction to your dark side, as opposed to someone who may be used to what they're going into?
Maybe subconsciously, but I don't think about that.
It doesn't really play.
Yeah. So
okay. Understand. Dark.
Yeah, sorry.
Dark. Has it always been dark?
Ever since I was a kid, yeah.
As far as the film stuff goes.
Mm-hmm. I got kicked out of high school for making horror films.
Really?
So,
what high school did you go to?
Fremont High School.
Fremont High School, out in the middle of nowhere, West Point, Plain City.
Yeah.
Very cool. I know that place.
Yeah.
I grew up in Layton. You've been doing this a while. Why? I mean, people dip their foot in, people mess with it, it gets hard, they run. Have you run away before? And if so, why did you come back? Or just why are you still in it?
I had a small gap, and that was mostly just because of work schedules, just not being able to have the freedom or the time to think of stuff. But for the most part, I've been doing it. What was the other part? Like the why?
So why do you still do this?
Oh, why don't we still?
Because it's fun, because you can kill people on camera and not have to really do it on purpose.
Yeah. I don't know what like I said, when I had that gap where I couldn't do stuff, I felt myself slipping and going insane. Not in a realistically lock myself up, but I needed to express myself. I needed to go out there and be creative again. And that, I think it was like 4 or 5 year gap. And then actually going back onto a set and running things, I felt like I was coming home and just like, okay, I know I have to do this for my own sanity. So that's why I keep doing it.
So how long have you been going since that gap?
Since that gap, I think I've done a movie every year, but not me directing or
over how many years?
So that was like 2017 or 18, maybe 16. So somewhere in there, yeah, it's been pretty consistent doing something, but and a lot of it's like helping buddies do other films, but I'm generally more relieved when it's my own stuff. I like helping, don't get me wrong, but you know,
it's your stuff.
Yeah, when you're not the director on a project, you're just like, I would be doing that so much differently, and so yeah, doing your own, you only have to answer to yourself.
It's a lot more comfortable.
Yeah,
and there's that much more pressure at the same time. Has there been? So you lived out in farm country. That's way out there. So were you out there before electricity and water, or were you part of that?
They did just put sewer lines when I was there.
So that was my tasteful way of asking that. Being out I'm familiar with that high school. Who sparked you into getting into this industry? I mean, regardless of where you go to high school, but you didn't come from the booming metropolis of Ogden, where, you know, there's movie stars on every corner. Who planted the seed in you to be where you're at right now, doing what you love?
I don't know if there was one particular person growing up, I had a lot of opposition to it. I'm dating myself with how old I am, but, going out and saying to people that you were going to be a filmmaker was not common, and they constantly refuted that. But I grew up loving movies, and I loved Tim Burton. In fact, 8/25/78 is actually a reference to him. It's his birthday, 8/25, not 78. He's older than that. But 8/25 is a reference to him. Tim Burton has been my rock for sort of, I think that maybe in some subconscious way he saved my life. So I just started just thinking about film, and then when he released Ed Wood in '94, I said, I want to do movies. So I've just been kind of focused on that ever since.
So, very cool. We're glad you're still kicking around.
Oh, me too.
We're glad that Gam didn't.
Totally fine, by the way.
You're okay? Yeah. Okay, that disappearance had us worried for a little bit. To wrap things up, please tell those that are watching the projects that you're involved in and how, and where we'll be able to see these and or read these aside from the film festival.
Aside from themselves, 8/25/78 short film playing virtually as well, and as well as in person. Documented feature on that. I don't know where they can read it. Hopefully you'll be able to see it within maybe next year at the Utah Film Festival. And then The Industry, which I did the sound for, written and directed by Matt O'Connor, is also virtual, I do believe. And then he'll probably post it online. So, check. Yeah, it might be online on personal websites. I don't know. We'll see.
Just Google it.
Yeah.
Chat GPT. Okay.
8/25/78 is easy.
8/25/78.
Yeah.
That was the locker comp to my seventh grade gym locker.
Oh.
Yeah. Brandon, dude, thank you very much for taking the time to be here. It's appreciated. Thank you again for joining us. We'll be back soon again with some more hot topics here at the Utah International Film Festival.